Welcome once again, rugby fans, to 2 Cents Rugby. For today's video, we're going to continue on with our previews and we are going to have a look at the Brumbies for 2018. So where are the Brumbies at? Well, they were top of their conference last season, so you would have thought that they were in a good place, but thinking about the situation of the Australian Conference overall, being top dog there, it didn't end up meaning a whole lot. And I think we saw that reflected in attendance from fans in Canberra and just enthusiasm in general around that season for Aussie rugby. So yeah, it's a fresh start. They've got a new coach. Stephen Larkham has left. He's gone to join the Wallabies full time, and assistant coach Dan McKellar has been given the top job. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. As far as I've seen in terms of appointments, he's got Laurie Fisher working with him, which I think is definitely a wise move. I mean, if you've ever listened to that guy talk, he's a pretty smart cookie. So yeah, well, let's have a look at the squad. There's been a bit of change. A few of the old hands have gone. So Fardy's gone, which that's a loss for the Brumbies. It's probably going to mean a little less or fewer penalties being conceded, but he's that kind of gritty player that you're definitely going to miss. Chris Alcock's gone. It's a pity as well because Alcock was kind of a journeyman in Australia. He played for the Waratahs, for the Force, and then eventually for the Brumbies, and he was always kind of behind somebody ranked better than him in his position. But last year he played really well in a year where Aussie rugby wasn't that great. So I thought, him leaving is a bit of a disappointment. Stanley Forth has gone, Smiler and Butler gone, and the Fainga brothers gone as well, Aiden Toa and Kubeli. So a fair bit of clean out there. Some of it will be missed more than others. But having a look at what's remaining. So up front, Abel, Man Ray, Fainga. This is a new Fainga. This is Folau Fainga, who's just come in. I think he's still pretty young. Mayhew, Sio, Alexander, Alalatoa, Les Macon, and Mies Erasmus. So yeah, I mean, if we are looking back at the Brumbies from last season, one criticism which is never going to be held on them is that their front row is rubbish. They were solid. They had a highlights reel package of both scrum pushovers from 5 meters and rolling mauls. So I don't think this is an area which is gonna suffer for the coming season. I think that's going to be pretty steady. I think Mies Erasmus is the only new addition here, and Fainga, of course, who's just come through. On this side, so we've got Carter, the two Arnold twins, Eneva, Swain, and Hine, plus the bigger, more exciting additions here is Nasarani from the Force, and Pocock has come back. We've still got Whakasilea, Valtini, McCaffrey, and Cusack. McCaffrey has also come over from the Force. He's had another bit of a journeyman career. Nasarani, obviously from the Force, he had a awesome season last year, so he is definitely a player to be excited about if you're a Brumbies supporter. Oh yeah, I should say apologies that I don't have any Brumbies gear on. I'm wearing Blues Aways kit. I have a few caps and shirts of various different teams, but absolutely nothing Brumbies, so that is something I'll have to rectify at some point. So Arnold come along to join his brother Rory. That's Richie. If you're talking like for like, those guys are twins, so they're the same build, they're the same style. It's been mentioned that it'll be like a return to their kind of backyard play when they were just trying to outdo each other. I think that'll have to be the case here because I can't see a point where they're on the field at the same time. I think if you're swapping one, you're swapping it for the other. It's kind of like for like replacement. Carter's going to be good. He'll play a lot of minutes. He's good in the line out as well. Eneva looked good from what we saw from last year. So Pocock is, I mean, if we're talking Brumbies attendance, if there's a name which can get people excited, who's not a flashy back, I think David Pocock's your man. As long as he stays injury free, and he's already injured. I think he got injured in his last game in Japan. So if his knees can hold up and he can have a good season, I think there's more to be excited about there if you are a Brumbies fan. Ben Hine, I think, will look to have a better season this year. I think he was injured for a bit of last season as well. So, like I said, I mean, looking at the front, the forwards, you'd have to be satisfied. You can't be too worried if you're a Brumbies fan about what's happening up here. I think, Dan McKellar's got a lot to play with there. I think where he'll be looking at improvement from last season, and where I think they need to see improvement, is on this side of the board. So in the backs, we got Powell, Lucas, and Lonergan, as I can hear my son rejoicing about his lunch, no doubt. Hawera, Leliafano, and Hansen. Hansen's a bit of a utility, but in terms of number 10, it's probably they're going to be Hawera or Leliafano, depending on if Leliafano plays 10 or 12. He's a bit of a revelation, a bit of a good feel story, feel good story. Firstly, beating cancer last year, and then he's gone off to Ulster and played some Pro 14. For all accounts, he's been very good over there. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. I think if he is playing at 10, he's defensively more sound than Hawera. So that's something for the coaches to consider. But I mean, defensive issues were not the Brumbies' problem last year. So Lucas has joined from the Waratahs. I guess he got sick of being the backup in Sydney, so he's decided to be the backup in Canberra instead, because I don't think he's pushing Powell off that number 1 spot. And Lonergan is supposed to be a hot prospect for the future, so he may even get bumped down to 3rd, depending on how much time McKellar wants to give some of the young boys. Mac Hansen, again, like I said, a bit of a utility. I think 10 or 15 he'll play. But probably sheltered minutes given he's still pretty young. Next side of the board, so we've got Godwin, Kuranjani, Jackson Hope, Smith, Banks, Penny, Dargaville, Spate, Taliuli, Muirhead, and Verity So Godwin strikes me as a guy who needs to have a better season than he did last year. I mean, since he's come through from his days at the Force, he was, touted as kind of the next big thing. And he's been fine, but he's not been outstanding. So it would be nice to see him kind of get near that potential which he was projected to get to, which he's not got near yet. I think a few fans in Canberra were disappointed with his performances last year, not being what they expected. Kurandrani is going to be in Kurandrani. I don't think there's no mysteries about what he's going to do for the team. Jackson Hope, he's fine. I don't think there'll be... he's a utility, so he'll get game time. Smith, he's getting on. Banks is a guy that you'd be more looking at as going to bring you a bit of X factor. And coming back to my earlier point, I think that's where it's lacking for the Brumbies. I mean, I'm not just talking about chucking the ball around like maniacs, but I think they had the lowest offload rate of all teams last year. So I mean, they were playing structured and efficient rugby, but there were times like, was it against the Highlanders when they needed to score in like the 80th minute and they just tried a rolling maul and the ball didn't come out and that was it? And it's like, if the rolling maul's not going to work out, well, what else have they got? Maybe Spate will steal you a try. Um, yeah. So I think whether they're going to get in a skills coach or like the Stormers did, I don't know. But there has to be a balance of structured, like set piece, all that kind of stuff, and just that heads up. We need 5 points in the last minute. What are we going to do? How are we going to break the line? Kind of stuff. So yeah, Banks is a cool player for that. I mean, he's got gas. I think I only saw him got run down once last year. Penny's signed from the Force, and he looks good. I think he's another reason. Like, if losing the Force is going to be good for Australian Super Rugby, it is just that consolidation of talent within fewer teams. So, I mean, having Penny, I don't think you've got him on your team if the Force are still around, Dargaville had a good season last year without doing anything magic. Spate is, he's still the big gun in the backline, isn't he? There's talk that he might be about to sign a contract overseas. So that'll raise the question, if he does, how much game time does he get? With the coach being in his first year, he might give him a bit more leeway to play some younger guys if he's looking to the year after. But it'll all depend on he may well decide to stay. So we'll see what happens. The last three guys will get time as well, but I think Spate is definitely that big name in the back line. So what are we expecting of the Brumbies this year? I think it's fair to say if they don't win the Aussie Conference, they will be considered to have not performed this season. It's going to be competitive. Looking at their strength of schedule, so based on the results of last season, the opponents they play, looking at their for and against from last season, the Brumbies actually have the easiest run of all 15 teams. And I think that's largely because last year the Rebels were terrible and the Sunwolves were terrible for the most part, except for when they beat the Blues. Don't need to remind me about that, thank you. They get to play. The Reds also weren't hot stuff. So the Brumbies technically have the easiest strength of schedule. What that means in reality, it's harder to know because that's last year's team. It doesn't mean a lot, especially when you're looking at the Rebels. They've had a largely changed squad, so don't take too much stock into it. But like I said, if the Brumbies can't get top spot in the Aussie Conference, I think you consider that a disappointing season. The season starts with the Sunwolves away, the Reds away, and the Rebels away. So on paper, it's 3 away fixtures, which is not ideal. And then they've got the Sharks at home. My son's definitely finished his lunch. I think they'd be looking to get 3 results from those first 3 games. If you don't beat the Sunwolves, every team is going to say this, but if you don't beat the Sunwolves, it's going to be disappointing. Rebuilding Reds, they're going to have to look to win, and then the Rebels will be a test to see if they've got all their stuff together, given how much their squad's changed. So yeah, the Brumbies have kind of rejigged, but not really gone for a full rebuild. So I don't think there's the risk of them being so disjointed like some other teams who are kind of reorganising things. The Brumbies also have a nice split of the bye weeks, so they don't have like a big long run of games without a bye. So it's pretty advantageous for them. They don't play the Stormers, and they don't play the Blues, so it's kind of good luck, bad luck. So not playing the Blues, that's unfortunate because that's if you're going to beat a Kiwi team, it's going to be the Blues, put it that way. And the Stormers are probably a nice one to be avoiding. They play the Jaguares in Australia, which is also nice. It means they save a trip to South America. So yeah, for the most part, I think your D is fine, your set piece is fine. The guys you've brought in look good. The guys you've lost, it's unfortunate, but there's no gaping holes there. Yeah, it's just whether that backline can get running and show a bit of magic rather than just mauling teams into submission. So we'll see how they go. Yeah, I think next time we might have a look at another team, but for now, that's me. This is 2 Cents Rugby, and hope to see you guys next time.